My name's Robert Miller, and I'd like to introduce the very talented ceramicist, Don Swanson. Thank you, Don. I appreciate your time today. And let's have a chat about your work. Let's start with how you got into ceramics. You got into ceramics at a young age. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I took a ceramic class in high school. I got a D in ceramics. Let's start off with that. It was well deserved. But what happened was that I had made this pot. In fact, I'm going to show it to you. It's not a bad looking pot, pretty big, stonework. And it wasn't in this art show, so I took my dad there. And I said, hey, I don't know what happened to my pot. It was supposed to be in this show. So I went back to school and I discovered that was my pot. Put it on a high shelf, I think, and the instructor didn't see it. And I got a little bit agitated about it. And on the way out, I threw the pot in a trash can. And that's 1967. Well, about 15 years ago, my mother gets me this box, and inside of it is this pot. And she says, well, the janitor at the high school, he pulled it out of the trash can, and he gave it to his wife. And she's had it all this time. And fortunately, her son is our mailman. And so they knew you lived here at one time, at least. And they thought because she was going into a senior living situation that you might want it back. So I have my very first pot. I took a summer class, I think it was in the summer '69 at Cypress Junior College. And I just got to love this stuff. I love the clay, I love the throwing. And then I went on to Long Beach State College for a year, which was fine, but I just didn't really connect that well there. So I went back to my junior college and I talked to Charlene Phillips, who was one of my instructors, really good instructor. And she says, you go to Cal State LA today and you talk to Mac and he's gonna let you work there. I had a great time at that school. I had a studio in the back of my house I was renting with a couple kilns, salt kiln and a high fire kiln. And I went to work. And that's it. I've been working since.
You've developed sort of this wonderful theme that's in your work, right? Which is very different from where you started out. And you switched from when you started out, like you had that high fire stoneware pot, and you've switched to a much more painterly, expressive, low fire clay body. You switched from stoneware to earthenware. Can you talk about sort of what's inspired you and what made you sort of develop and change it over time?
I think it's around 1990, 91, when my wife and I moved to Tucson. And I bought this book on English chintz, that kind of decal stuff. So I started hand painting chintz type pottery. I did the Beverly Hills show and people they liked it. And before long, there was crowds of people coming to my booth and opening up my boxes before I even could get them on the shelves. And it's kind of been like that for a long time, bringing us up to date, so to speak. 2 years ago, I got kind of interested in doing a line of art based on children's art. So like animals and different things, and just putting on my pots. So I started doing these childlike paintings on the cups and plates and bowls, and they did very well. And so I got that after that year, instead of just continuing to do that, I was reading a book I have here. It was on expressionism. And this one, and this kind of led me to the idea that maybe I could put kind of wild color to it. And so that's pretty much where I am today. I kind of decided I just wanted to do something that brought me a little more back to my childhood. And so that's kind of like that was the genesis of this idea.
Now, Don, you've been with the Beverly Hills Art Show since day one. And we talked a little earlier, if you could talk about it a little bit, some of the experiences you've had with the art show and some of the friends. Obviously, you have quite a big following. And I'd say, why do you think you have that following? And then, maybe a little bit about, you were telling me about some of the people who have become dear friends in your relationships in the community because of the show.
The Beverly Hills show is unique. If you can connect to the people that live in the neighborhoods, around there that, I mean, they're incredible. There are people they have a house across from my booth, and they bring me food. There's someone on Crescent Street, and you know who you are, and I'm missing my biscotti, and she brings me biscotti, chocolate chip biscotti. And on Rodeo, there's a dear friend, and she's there for us for anything at any time. And I've had her call me and say, Don, I missed the show. I'm missing the show. And I says, where are you? She goes, I'm at the Acropolis. She was at the Acropolis. But, it's just like, they're so nice. And it makes it so much fun when they let you park in their driveway, and they take you out to dinner. I mean, it is amazing. Just the general mood of the show is really nice. You might see somebody who's making some beautiful little stoneware bowls and cups at the show. And you might see somebody who's doing some, 8-10 foot pot that's thousands of dollars. I mean, the breadth of the span of the artwork is pretty large, and that's what makes it nice. There was a movement. Remember the Memphis movement, and it was like everybody was doing these kind of constructed pieces, a lot of parts and things that went together, and you'll see that at the show. You'll see people that do stuff like that, and so it's really you kind of have to find your niche.
Now, Don,
yes.
since you're talking about your niche, I wanted our audience to know, they always wonder, and this is always a big one, like, oh, does he have another job? Is this a hobby? Can you talk a little bit about your art practice, how much you make, so people get to know how Don Swanson, the artist, ceramicist, really is? What is your practice?
Well, I pretty much have been working every day since I was 19 years old. I decided when I was in junior college that this was a hard thing to do. And if you want to get good at it, you have to work a lot. And so that's never been a problem for me. I really push myself to try to learn something every day. I've been working very, very diligently at this for some 50-some years.
Don, your studio is in Tucson, Arizona.
It is.
So you're making that trek from all the way from Arizona, loading up your truck or car, packing all that work to come to do this show. It's really, if you talk a little bit about that and that process as well, of how that works for an artist.
It's a whole month. I spend a whole month every day, 12 hours a day practically, just getting ready for that show. And so I don't do anything else practically other than getting ready for the Beverly Hills show. And sometimes it's crazy. You just have to find a way through it and get those pots out, and then painting them about 3 or 4 days before the show starts. I paint up all the boxes. So I paint scenes on all the boxes. I bring the pots in. And I do this because when people would come to the show like 20, 30 in the morning, and they would just tear through all the boxes, I don't know what to do. So I said, I'm going to paint the boxes. It'll look like part of the art show. And so I painted up all the boxes. And sometimes I'd spend 2 or 3 days painting these boxes. There's a doctor who was a great customer up the street. He said, come here, I want to show you something. And I went to his house, and he had this huge glass table, and the boxes were holding up this immense table. And I said, how do they hold up the table? He says, that's my art. He says, I had specially built wooden boxes to go inside the cardboard boxes. It became part of the show. The part of my show is to do this. And I would say, if you want to fill the boxes up, then take the box with you.
That's very cute. Now, about your work, to give our audience a little more understanding, especially since it's ceramics, there's a much bigger process. Can you, in the short time we have, talk a little bit about, people look at your work, and we'll talk about the wall pieces in a minute, like whether they're casted or thrown. I know what your work is, but that's really important, whether it's being manufactured or whether you're making it yourself, and a little bit about the process that goes into, maybe start to finish, so that they understand the time frame and how much work goes into each piece and the love and care.
what I do is basically I'll get an idea for a piece. I'll take a cup, let's say this cup, and it'll be bisque fired, which means it's fired just to a high temperature with no design on it, about 2,000 degrees. And then sometimes I'll
Now,
look at
Don, do you make your work, or do you have apprentices make your work?
I do all the work. I do all the painting and the throwing. I throw the pots on the potter's wheel. I have a slab roller. There's the clay canvases are actually pre-made. They come in different sizes. They have a lip behind them so that they're really easy to hang on the wall. And I really, when I think about it, sometimes really my work is a little bit more about painting than it is about pottery. I've been making pots for a long time, but the pot is a canvas, and the process is kind of mechanical. And so what goes on the surface is really what I'm interested in. That's for me what's going on. And so I will draw out with a pencil my design, and I will fill those lines in with a bottle of glaze, and then I will brush paint or use sometimes these little bottles to put the design on. And they're basically like little paintings, and they're just kind of fun for me to do. So I enjoy doing that.
Now, big little paintings, Don, like you have the vases behind you and the cups, that these are functional items. But do you actually expect or want people to use them?
They always do. I think of my forms as a canvas. So I really just want something to paint on. And I do want them to be functional because I want them to be collectible. And so by keeping the form simple, the emphasis is on the surface and the designs I put on the surface. I just finished this one, and I finished that one the other day. It took 3 days to paint those 2 pieces. So every part of that is painted. There's underglaze, and there's background colors, and then there's layers and layers and layers of glaze, so that it has a dimensionality. It's thick. It's thick with glaze, like a Van Gogh paint.
We're all suffering through COVID. And unfortunately, right now we're doing these virtual talks as part of the Beverly Hills Art Show. And the show hasn't come back in person yet. Hopefully we'll all be hanging out in the gardens shortly. How has the pandemic affected your practice and you as an artist?
Well, financially, it's not great because, my shows basically are non-existent. I sell to kind of funky little places sometimes too that carry my work, like Dude Ranch in Colorado, and a little gallery in Rhinebeck, New York, that has just a glass blower, and me as the potter and the jeweler. And then I sell to La Provence Patisserie in Beverly Hills, which is local. They're on Olympic and Lapeer, and they carry my cups and bowls, and so they've all been ordering from me, and that's helped. But in a way, it's kind of slowed me down a bit, and it's kind of good in a way, because I work so hard. Sometimes I don't realize why I'm so exhausted at the end of the day, and this has allowed me to kind of set a different pace. I'm still in my shop every day, but I don't feel that kind of pressure to get those pieces together for a show. I might go through 200 or 300 pieces in a show, and it's enormously hard to fire those kilns daily and keep the pots thrown and decorated. And when you're doing this all yourself, and you're 70 years old, it gets a little crazy. I miss shows, and I miss the people, I think, more than the shows. I just miss talking to all the people. I might do a little show in the summer. I might, if everything's good. But other than that, I think the Beverly Hills show might be the next one. And so pretty much I'm gonna keep working on this and building this lineup, as well as some of the other ones I've done.
What do you find is the most popular thing that you make? Is that something you like making?
I like cups. It's kind of like doing a thumbnail sketch in life drawing. It's one of those things you can get done faster, and you can see the results. You can see what it looks like, and it's something that's very functional. I like making all kinds of shapes. And like I started off as a painter. I like this, the fact that the painting is on the surface of this vessel. It's just fun to challenge yourself to get a shape and say, what am I going to put on this? You know, and that's kind of how I work. I just take an item and I say, what do I want to do with this? And then I try to come up with an idea really quick. And if I don't, I just start with something.
Now, we're in the age of technology and social media, and obviously with all the shows that have shut down, have you switched to a lot of, do you use a lot of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat? You know, have you found, I mean, how do people see your work, you know, whether a website, and find out more about you?
Well, you know, we have a little Facebook site. I have never had a website. I felt I've never needed one. I have those little wholesale accounts, a few of those. Between that and people that I had today, I had 3 people come into my studio to buy things, and they find me. The galleries find me. I've never looked for a gallery. They find me, and people find me, and they tell their friends, and then they find me. So for me, I'm very fortunate. I mean, I've never had to go far to find people to buy.
Well, it looks like it's worked out extremely well for you. I know we're running out of time, so I really want to thank you, Don Swanson. I appreciate you being here with us today. And for more information regarding the Spring Art Show and its schedule, please visit beverlyhills.org/art show. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in the park.
We were going to do, as you know, we were going to do this in October on the 9th. And my mother was very sick, and we couldn't do this session, and she had passed away. And I just want to tell everybody out there that my mother was a big influence on my work. I mean, she bought me materials, she framed my paintings, she supported me in every which way. And Mother's Day is coming up, and I just want to thank all the mothers out there who support their kids, painting, drawing, dance, photography, film, whatever it is, and thank them for being supportive, because a lot of us knew or know what we wanted to be, and we just needed that support. And it's so instrumental when they were behind us and helped us to realize our dreams.
Well, Don, that's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and talking about your wonderful artwork.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Robert.